Right. Good evening, members, officers, members of the public, and people watching us at home. Welcome you to this planning committee. Can I ask everybody to put the phones on silent, please? Right. Item one. Sorry, before we go on item one, we now election has been declared, and we are in Perda now, and no political comments, please. Anybody who speaks. Right. Agenda item one, application for. Sorry, apologies for absence. Bill.
I've received apologies from Councillor Todd.
Okay. And I think, yeah, that's it. Reese, anybody? No? Okay. Thank you. Declaration of interest and any other comments from members? Yep.
I just received an email on behalf of the applicant.
Which item?
Number one, first one.
Item 4, yeah. So same here. Bill, I received the email as well.
Chair, I received email on both items
Oh, you're both
from
okay.
the applicant.
Anybody else? Councillor Lal? You received as well? I think most of us have received the email.
Only on item 4, Chair.
Item 4, yeah. Yeah.
Received it, but I'm not sure, so I'll go through again and check it.
Okay. Right. Thank you. Let's take the minutes. The planning committee meeting on 9th of May, pages 7 to 9. I'll take both correction and matter rising at the same time. Anybody? Yeah. Mike, please.
Sorry, yeah, I said I think I've been omitted, but it has been. I've spoken with Bill, and it's been corrected. I think.
Yes, I can confirm that, and apologies to Councillor Foote, who was recorded as present, but the minutes didn't feature your name at the top, even though you're in the minutes. That's now been corrected and republished. And the version, the hard copy that the chair can sign is the correct one with you on.
Foot is happy now. So minutes agreed. I can sign that now. Thank you. There we go, sir. Right. Next item is item 4, Whitlock House 2 to 4 Lambton Road. And who's taking it? Ahmed, yeah.
Good evening, everyone. Today we're discussing Whitelock House, located adjacent to the council offices, formerly an office building and now consists of 34 residential flats. Here is a site location plan on screen. Site's located within Hounslow Town Centre in a highly sustainable transport location. The scheme here are some photos. The scheme would provide 8 new dwellings. It would be zero carbon, car-free, apart from 2 disabled bays shown at the rear there, with the car park management plan that's been accepted in terms of managing those spaces and preventing additional users from using it, and would include a communal amenity contribution to Lambton Park to address a communal amenity shortfall. The plans on screen are the 4th and 5th floor plans of Whitelock House and the roof plan. Sections are also on screen with elevations and CGIs to come.
Okay, thank you. Questions, members, for the officer, please? Councillor Luki?
Yeah. Thank you for that introduction. We get these often where to mitigate for lack of amenity space, outdoor amenity space, we commute the amount of money to a park. We've seen that in other locations. It doesn't always work. What are we getting for this from the applicant? For Lambton Park, what does it amount to in money terms, and what would it And what would it amount to in practical terms for the park? Capital, revenue, what will it be, and how will it be monitored? And who's going to decide? Will it be agreed with Friends Group? Will it be agreed with ward councillors? It's not your ward, is it? It's Hounslow West Ward. But yeah, how will that contribution be agreed, and what does it amount to?
Thank you for your question, Councillor. So the figure has been calculated, as you mentioned, similar to other schemes. The scheme would have been required to provide around 200 square meters of community space, less the private amenity provision. Don't have the figure to hand, but I believe it was 95 square meters shortfall. That would equate to a £5,336.80 financial contribution to be secured via legal agreement, where our parks team will identify a scheme suitable in Lambton Park to spend that money on.
Sorry, Chair, was
Sorry.
that
Yeah,
£5,000?
That's correct, £5,336.80.
They're getting off lightly, aren't they? When you look at the value that could be given to a balcony or outdoor space here, how do we hard bargain these, Vincent, Matthew?
Okay, it's a standard calculation based on the contributions SPD that is run through to generate that figure. So we have to be consistent with that calculation, the way that that's undertaken.
Okay. Yeah. Any more? Yeah. Councillor Dan Warren.
Thanks for the presentation, Ahmed. I did discuss this with you beforehand. The cycle parking, it's sort of quite cramped, two-tier, and not enough Sheffield stands. Am I right in understanding there might have been some movement on that, or is that something that needs to be secured by condition?
Yeah, so thank you for the question, Councillor. To confirm, the applicant and LBH have had some discussions about introducing Sheffield stands rather than two-tier Sheffield stands. We have a verbal agreement for the applicant to introduce 8 Sheffield stands, which would provide the policy compliant 15 cycle spaces and leave 1 space to accommodate a larger cycle such as a cargo bike. Condition 6 also requires prior to occupation details of cycle parking, where we would expect those details, full details of the cycle parking, to be agreed at that stage, in line with what we've principally agreed at this point in time.
Okay. Yeah. Supplementary.
If that's right, Chair. So would it still be appropriate to include that as a condition if the committee is minded to approve?
We could amend the condition to be more explicit in terms of the quantum and nature of the cycle spaces. That would need to be moved as part of this committee.
Councillor Lal.
Chair, just for clarification, in the opening comments the officer made, did you say 34 or 32?
34.
The document before us, I think it refers to 32. Have I misread it?
I have it as 34, but the applicant is registered to speak. He may be best placed to confirm that final number of residential dwellings.
Yeah, thanks very much. Just looking at the history of this site, Councillor raised the point that it was originally for 34 back in 2019. And then we see other bits of planning application going in. The majority were approved, most of it for external changes. But then we see in less than a year ago, there's an application for an extra stories on top and to provide 9 additional, and now we've got 8 additional. What was the background to because we see that was refused in July last year. What was the basis of that? I mean, I suppose the genesis of my question is: Are we getting to this by stealth?
So, responding to your question, Councillor, yes, that's correct. We did refuse an application last year for 9 units on various grounds. The applicant, following that, engaged with LBH in a pre-application service where we were able to provide advice in how to address those reasons for objections, which resulted in the scheme before us today, which my recommendation is to approve the scheme.
Any more questions? I can't see any more hands. Thank you. Now can I invite the objectors? That's Christian Demosio, Apolline Blancard, and Krishnan Bendra. Three of them? Yeah. You come forward, please. You can pull your chairs, 3 chairs if you want to. Okay, now, as I said earlier, no political comments, please. And I'll give you 5 minutes in total. It's up to you how you take it. And we'll let you know when it's 30 seconds left. You can start when you're ready.
All right. Thank you so much for hearing us. It was very important for us to come here. We are very much strongly against it. Firstly, the current proposal has not addressed suitably the reasons for refusal of last year's application. In the council refusal letter, it stated that the proposal, by reason of lack of communal amenity space, would result in inadequate living conditions for future occupiers of this development. The current proposal, yet again, does not plan for communal amenity space on the property. They are instead seeking an exemption and wanting to pay about £5,000 to Lambton Park as a way to compensate. I ask that this request be denied as the proposed agreement is not adequate. Our building would be altered forever by 2 extra floors made up of extra units. And having all this without shared communal amenity space would be permanently very detrimental to us current and to all the future occupiers of the building as well. Moreover, we strongly feel the project is out of character and constitutes overdevelopment. The 6-story scale is imposing and not in keeping with the street scene. The proposed maximum building height of 19.84 meters falls under the London plan definition of a tall building. The neighboring buildings that are similar to ours only have 4 stories. Adding 2 extra to our building is simply too much. Also, we need to bear in mind that developers, architects, etc., devote a relatively limited amount of time on each project. That's normal, it's their job. But us, the owners, the residents, it is our day-to-day. It is our lived reality. Although I will not be alive by the time that the leasehold ends in nearly 1,000 years, I very much intend to stay in Whitelock House for a very, very long time. And I feel strongly that the current proposal is not satisfactory to us residents, as due to its design and scale, it would not respond well to the character and context of the surrounding area. And lastly, I would just like to point out that there are some inconsistencies in the proposal. For example, in the council report pack on page 32, it refers to 9 units, not 8. And this inconsistency makes me fear that there might be other errors that are too technical for someone like me to spot, but may be incredibly important to the proposal. Given all that I've mentioned, I really think that we need to vote against this proposal. Thank you.
Right, thank you. So just concluding this, I believe, and many in the building we believe, this contravenes local plan policy CC2, which seeks to protect existing residential amenities and negatively impact the area aesthetic, violating London plan policy D3. Also, this is inconsistent with local plan policy SC4, which aim to ensure appropriate scale and density in new housing development. Finally, I've been treated very poorly by the managerial company, and ruthlessly, we've been told that we don't own the place, we tenant, and we're never gonna be franchising the place, which is a new rule now, new legislation just passed in government, which abolished the leasehold, waiting for royal assent. And so this is the last that they get. Then nothing will happen to this property. Thank you.
I think they both summed up our feelings as residents very clearly. I guess the only thing I wanted to add is that we believe generally across the board, and every single resident in which I've spoken to, believe that the current amenities, the current facilities cannot keep up with the current demand and the current number of residents, and that is including but not limited to waste management, window cleaning, security, maintenance and teething, as it is a relatively new build, lift demand, that lift breaks down more than ever recently, garden maintenance and lawn maintenance, and many, many more. The building shakes. If you're on the top floor, the building literally shakes every time an aeroplane goes past. I may not be the most technical guy in the world when it comes to planning applications, but it doesn't, from my perspective, it is very clear to me that this is very flawed. Thank you.
Thank you. Stay there, please, for members' questions. Members, question to the objectors, please. Yeah, Councillor Luki.
Gentlemen at the end there, can you repeat your assertions that it does not, this application does not meet the planning regulations? What are the policy numbers and
So
and
impact on
descriptions?
neighboring properties.
So that again, impact on neighboring properties.
This contravenes local plan policy CC2, which seeks to protect existing residential amenities. Then design and visual impact. This imposing six-story structure would disrupt the visual continuity and negatively impact the area aesthetic, violating London plan policy D3. And finally, this inconsistent with local plan policy SC4, which aims to ensure appropriate scale and density in new housing developments. By the way, the building will appear just behind your shoulders and will cover your view.
Fortunately, we don't stay here too often, but I understand.
Okay, Councillor Bowring, yeah.
Can you, so you've each of you touched on it in a different way. You began to unpack a bit more. Can you explain how the extra 2 stories will impact on the existing residents' amenity?
Specifically amenities or the construction process as well?
Sure, do both.
Okay, so I understand that some of this may be outside the scope of this particular meeting, but right now we strongly believe, in fact, we know from lived experience that things like lift demand and modern maintenance and waste management and the list I gave earlier, the property and the management of it does not keep up. It does not keep up with the demand. It does not keep up with the demand on waste, for example. And we, the residents, feel the heat of that. A flat stinks, to put it bluntly. And quite simply, 8 as extra residents, or 9, the documentation isn't quite clear, is only going to add to that demand. And I haven't seen in the information that I've been presented with or that's been sent to me, I haven't seen sufficient evidence or anything to suggest that there will be an improvement or an addition to the access to things like waste management. That's one example. In terms of during the process of construction, I mean, I understand that these were originally kind of suggested as not particularly inside the scope of this meeting, but the fear of lack of daylight and noise and dust and disruption and chaos and all those things in the building, in the external perimeter of the building, in my window, in my garden view. I worked my entire adult life, 70 hours a week, and lived very far away from work and in very loud and shared accommodation. Saved my whole life dreaming to own my own property. And I've identified the borough of Hounslow as a place where I could do that because I thought it was a place where I would fit in. And I realized my dream, but I fear that I'm going to regress back to the days where I really, really struggled.
Okay, Dan, you were supplementary?
So aside from the waste issues and the impact on the lift, is there anything else you'd like to add where you think your residential amenity would be compromised?
So first of all, probably I can I don't know if you hear me, but anyway, I can finish what he was trying to say is that we saw the standard, the way they did all the work there. After 2 years, some of the work, the repair were not even completed. And they double up the service charge for what reason? For up to 2 years. And are they going to continue working this way? I mean, I've been advised legally, and my lawyer had a laugh when he heard.
Sorry, can I just bring you back to how will 2 extra stories affect your quality of life, your residential amenity?
It's all in the way they're going to do the work, how they're going to implement everything that they said. The planning has got different way of being worked out. I don't think 2-floor there, the way it's posed, will actually make my life easier, because I'm on the third floor, top floor, like the gentleman here. I'm gonna have people working there. We're gonna have a horrible time. It's already continuously, like I said, trembling when they do some particular work in waste management and all the stuff. We had water coming down, brand new building, water coming down from the top floor under the roof once during. So we know that the building has had a problem in the past. It was, first of all, not a residential property. It was moved into a residential. You approved that, but the structure of the building is commercial. And now we are standing into extra residential.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions? Thank you. You can go back and take your seats, please. Okay, now can I invite the applicant, Mark Slater, please? Mr. Slater, you have 5 minutes, and we'll let you know when it's 30 seconds left.
So many thanks for your time today in determining the application at Whitelock House. The applicant, Whitelock House HR Limited, has worked proactively with the design team and planning officers to develop the scheme put before you today. So the proposal is to provide 8 apartments to rooftop extension and provides much needed housing. The development signifies the start of the regeneration of this part of Hounslow in line with the recently adopted Hounslow Master Plan, delivering much needed housing in a highly sustainable location that has excellent access to local services, facilities, and key transport hubs. The development is designed to be zero carbon, so it incorporates high levels of insulation, on-site renewable energy, and areas of green roof. The apartments will meet the London Plan space standards, and where possible, additional private amenity space has been provided. There have been many similar rooftop developments within Hounslow, and this follows suit in delivering additional housing in a sustainable location on an existing brownfield site. So the design's been developed considerably, working in collaboration with Hounslow's planning and urban design teams. So during the design development stage, a number of changes have been made, resulting in changes to the appearance since the previous application. As part of this, the existing mansard has been removed, replaced with brickwork to create a better cohesion with the existing building. The rhythm of the existing building has been replicated in terms of the structural setting out and the window positions, integrating it better. A key part of this has been extending the bay to the front upwards to align it with the current property. The materials have also been changed to a combination of brickwork and metal cladding, creating a cohesive appearance with both the existing building and neighbouring properties, which results in a development that sits well in the town centre location. We are aware of the concerns regarding the construction of the extension and the disruption this may cause. We'll be working carefully with the contractor to minimise the impact of this on current residents. The noise assessment places a restriction on noisy working hours, and the air quality assessment suggests ways to manage and mitigate the impact of dust. We are exploring all options in terms of the construction, including off-site manufacture to minimise the time on site and disruption the works will cause. And whilst the development will undoubtedly have an impact, we will be carefully planning this to minimise as far as possible. It's important to note the fire safety of the whole building will be improved through the provision of an evacuation lift as part of the development. So designed in a way to optimise density, but has no overlooking or loss of light impact to neighbouring properties. The design to be kept simple and designed to be highly sustainable, which starts with orientation, windows positions to reduce base energy demand. Coupled with a car-free approach with the exception of the accessible parking, the zero carbon development creates a highly sustainable building. To conclude, the proposal makes an efficient use of land to provide much needed housing, which will be both high quality and zero carbon. The proposal is compliant with national, London and local plan policies, and therefore comprises sustainable development, which should be approved. And it's kindly requested the committee members support the officer's recommendation and grant permission. Thank you. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Questions for the applicant? Yeah, Councillor Jones-Brown, please.
Yeah. Just looking at the communal and private amenity space that you're proposing, it's a bit vague as to what the private amenity space would be. So maybe you could, because it says the private amenity space provided for 8 flats complies with the criteria set in the London plan, but it doesn't actually tell us what it's going to be, whether it's going to be balconies, roof gardens, or whatever. And then we come to the communal amenity space, which give or take a couple of square meters. When you take off the private amenity space, we're looking at about 100 square meters, 95 square meters to be more accurate. And you're proposing that that's taken up by access to Lambton Park, for which you're offering 5,000. Is that correct? Yep.
Yeah, another policy. Yeah.
Personally, I'm not sure that this is a road that we'd want to go down, in as much that it opens the door to any park being a usable communal space. What do you actually think that your proposal to say Lambton Park provides that communal space is adequate?
Yes, I think so. I mean, in terms of the private amenity space, you can see on the plans that have probably been put up there, that's the 4th floor plan. So wherever possible, we've given above minimum requirements of London plan in terms of terrace sizes there. And then on the floor above, you've also got private balconies to each apartment as well. And I think in terms of the contribution, I mean, that's in line with the SPD as per the head of planning's comments earlier.
Okay, maybe we can return to that later in the discussion.
Okay, any more questions? Can't see it. Okay, Councillor Lukey.
Yeah, Mr. Slater, we've heard from residents, existing residents. To what extent has your organisation consulted with them and discussed matters with them and looked to find solutions to any of their concerns with this application and during this application process?
Okay, so obviously there was a previous application that was determined last July. So with that application, a consultation was held where there was documentation put out and a questionnaire that was completed, and we've tried to address all those concerns. They mainly, in the majority, focused on understandably disruption of construction. So what we've done is we've put together a construction method statement as part of the application in order to try and address those comments. But obviously that's also conditioned with a number of details attached to that condition, which would need to be resolved. In terms of other comments, there were a few that were not planning matters, such as value of property, things like that, but they mainly focused around construction rather than the sort of principle and appearance of the design.
Yeah, that was a previous application. What about this application?
In terms of this application,
yeah, your discussion and communication with existing residents.
So in terms of this application,
sorry, and also you heard about you heard the matters that were raised by the gentleman on its and its compliance with planning policy. What do you have to say to that as well?
Well, I think in terms of the compliance with planning policy, so impact on neighbouring properties, there's obviously no overlooking. We've undertaken daylight and sunlight assessments. There'll be no impact in terms of that on neighbouring amenity. I mean, there's obviously going to be some disruption during the construction, which we'll obviously try to minimise. I think that's the main impact on neighbouring properties, to be honest. There was mention about the lift not working. Will there be a new lift put in as part of this proposal, which will be larger and an evacuation lift, so improving the fire safety of the building. I think in terms of the design and visual impact, that's been worked on quite heavily since the previous application. I believe it fits in well with the existing building and the pattern of development locally in terms of the materials and the way it's been designed to replicate the fenestration and structural layout. It sort of takes them vertically upwards, so the proportions sit well with the existing building. And in terms of scale and density, was part of the recently adopted master plan. This highlights this building as a possible for a rooftop development within there. And I think there's generally a number of tall buildings in this location. So in terms of height, I don't think it stands out particularly for with an additional 2 stories.
And just in terms of the provision of a new lift, will that be for the use of existing residents
Yeah, all
too?
residents, yeah.
And so will they be required to contribute towards that as existing residents and paying their service, part of their service charge of maintaining? They haven't asked this, for example, I would assume.
No, I mean, in terms of the installation of the new lift, and that would obviously form part of the construction works, so that obviously wouldn't be part of any service charge. I mean, I don't know what the residents pay service charge at the moment for, so I imagine ongoing maintenance would be part of a service charge. It normally is, so that would probably still remain within there.
Be added to it. The new lift will be added to the service charge. So
I have no idea.
Are you
what
not the
service charge
developer?
is. I'm not the developer now. I'm the architect, so
Okay,
I don't know.
right.
I don't know what's
It's all right.
included in the service charge. I mean, obviously we split between more people, but yeah, I'm not aware of what the details of that service charge are.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Boring, please. Just a moment. Okay, sorry.
So firstly, is that an additional lift or a replacement lift?
Replacement lift.
And it's a larger lift?
Yeah.
And the other comment that came from the objectors was around waste. Trying to understand the difference between the day-to-day management and whether the facilities are suitable. Do you take a view on whether the facilities are suitable for, because you're not providing extra waste and recycling?
So in terms of the waste storage, we've assessed it against the policy requirements in terms of number of bins for waste, recycling, etc., and it complies in terms of space standards with the additional apartments as well.
Right, Councillor Kiani.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just reading here, the layout of the flats has demonstrated that this has been taken into consideration and that the layout would not result in a significant loss of privacy. So can you explain significant? What is the measurement of significant? Loss of privacy.
To where? Sorry, to the
neighboring properties,
Well, I think we've got, so the apartments all face on an east-west basis. So the windows that you can see in the south and north elevations are all obscure glazed, so there won't be any overlooking to the north and south. We've also got screens to the balconies to the north and south as well, so that's protecting the privacy, I'd say, substantially of the obviously of Hounslow House, the Civic Centre, and also to number 6 Lambton Road.
Can't see any more hands. Thank you, Mr. Slater.
Thank you very much.
All right. Mr. Ali, in your briefing, can you try to answer some questions that were asked, please?
Absolutely. Yes. So if I start from the beginning, the very first one was on communal amenity space and that kind of carrying over from the last application. To clarify, reason for refusal number 3 in the previous application tied in the private amenity space with the communal amenity space. That was the previous provision was substandard and would raise privacy concerns. As the applicant has touched on and has touched on in my report, that wouldn't be the case in this current proposal. And Matt and I have already spoken about the equation used for the communal amenity space and that going towards Lambton Park. Issues have been raised regarding the management and the valuation of those properties. Obviously, those aren't town planning matters. As Mr. Slater pointed out, there is the benefit of a larger fire lift for the residents also. Oh, yes. I'd like to also apologize for a typo, which the first commenter was correct on in paragraph 11.4. Near the end, mistakenly called it 9 units, but I'd like to clarify all plans, the consultations and everything else correctly refers to 8 units. This building also, by Hounslow's definition, is a medium-rise building, but the policy that relates to tall buildings supports tall buildings within a town centre anyway. And the design, the applicant has proactively worked with the council's urban design officers through the pre-application process and during this application to get what we deem as an acceptable design. And we've also secured via condition 3 a whole swathe of materials to again ensure that this is a visually attractive scheme.
Yeah, you want to go? Go.
Apologies, members. I just wanted to correct something that I'd said earlier, because so the contribution for the communal communal amenity space of £5,000 is based on a calculation, but it's not in the SPD that I refer to, having double checked. So it's just so that you're all clear about that. That methodology around the calculation is not in the obligations SPD, which is what I said. So that was my mistake. It's based on a calculation that the team worked with the Parks team on, and is consistent with how they've calculated it on other schemes, but it's not in the SPD.
Waste was also mentioned. We have, as part of condition 6, a request for a delivery servicing plan, but during the course of the applications, we've had a look at the waste provision that exists for the building, as well as how the delivery and servicing could occur, and that's secured via condition 6 also.
Thank you. I'm going to open for a debate. Is there a question you want to ask? Well, I'll go on. I'll let you ask this one. Go on.
Well, just could you say, is the provision for waste and the amount of lifts policy compliant, considering the 8 new dwellings?
Yes, Councillor Barring.
Another question, is it?
Yeah, on the new information from the Director of Planning and Buildings. So what we're going to get for this? What would we get? Or what would the residents get for the 5,900 odd quid? I mean, you've discussed it with it's been discussed with the Parks Department. You know, what we're getting for that? Are we getting anything new? Are we going to get, or is it just going to be dumped in the maintenance budget? Or what? And if that's the case, sorry, and if that's the case and there's no SPD on it, what's SPD stand for?
Yeah.
Again?
Yeah.
So SPD stands for Supplementary Planning Document.
Right.
We've got an adopted supplementary planning document from several years ago that sets out how we collect Section 106 and SIL funding, and how we calculate the amounts that we collect. So that's what I was referring to there. In terms of the contribution to the park, the Section 106 financial contribution would go into the Section 106 pot, and then there's a process by which service areas bid or draw down that funding to spend on enhancements to the park. So that would be for the Green Spaces team to do, and it hasn't been defined yet what that would be.
Sorry, so if there is no if there is no current SPD or active or renewed SPD, is there a potential for more contribution than this £5,900?
Yeah. So the £5,000 is based on a methodology that the team have working with the Parks team that they've used on other schemes. So it's consistent with that. But as I said, it's not in the old SPD. So there is room for negotiation there, but obviously we have to be consistent with how we do this on other with other schemes.
Well, sorry, Chair. I mean, this will vary from park to park, and it will vary from shopping list to shopping list. And if we are putting this all in the pot, then what's the guarantee of anything going to Lambton Park on this? So, and if it is negotiable, you know, we're getting less than half of the amenity that would be expected for here. Was it 95 square meters as opposed to 200 square meters? That's a small amount to pay. I think we do. I think other members would expect as well. I would hope they'd expect a bit more than this. If they're, you know, if we are selling amenity space or allowing the developer to get away with less amenity space. I mean, £5 is a small amount to pay. Needs more negotiation.
In answer to that, we can't negotiate a Section 106 with the applicant without the applicant being part of that. So we can't do that via planning committee. But the point is understood around the contribution and what that would be spent on. Just to reassure members, the contribution, Section 106 contribution when made is explicitly tied to the Section 106 clause. So the clause in the Section 106 agreement will be specific about the fact that it goes towards improvements to Lambton Park to mitigate the impacts of this particular development. And that's what it would have to be spent on.
But we haven't signed the Section 106 agreement yet, have we?
No,
this is just a kind of in principle. So technically we haven't agreed the amount of money in, have we?
No.
Right. So I would suggest that this that should we be minded to approve this, then more should be then more money should be not just £1,000, at least double this, if not more, and something specific agreed with the chair of what would be a clause in the Section 106 agreement for Lambton Park. And this is a small price for any developer to pay, should this be agreed. Small price for them to pay to get away with much less than is required. I think we've got to review these things. The expense of maintaining parks or introducing new equipment to parks, or adding new beds and planting, that's gone up in the same way as development costs have gone up. So this should be at least proportionate, I would say, Chair.
Okay, you want to answer that, Vincent?
I think
Or
that's
Simon?
understood.
Yes, understood. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Dan?
Really quick, can I just get clarification? Was this site identified in the master plan as suitable for a rooftop extension? Someone mentioned it earlier in the meeting. Yeah.
Unless, Chair,
Yeah.
unless the case officer knows straight off, we can check the master plan now to confirm that, if that's right. It's the town centre master plan. What I would add to that, though, is that the town centre master plan isn't a planning document, so it has limited planning weight. In the meantime, we'll have a look for specific reference in there.
You got a question? No, then we'll come to debate. Yeah. Okay. It's fine, Dan. Okay. Right. It's open for debate. Members, yeah. Councillor Stouter, please.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair. I want to go down the lines that Councillor Lukey just picked up on, because I'm a little bit worried that it doesn't meet the amenity space. And I'll come back. If we could have a picture of floor 4 up as well in a moment, that'd be useful as well. That we start a dangerous precedence where you just say any old park down the road, and you've got to think, how much would 95 square meters actually cost the developer to put in? A lot more than 5,000 quid. In fact, probably 10 times 5,000 quid. So they're effectively, and I'd be blunt about this, it's sort of we've been bought off this by throwing Lambton Park into the mix. 5,000 quid won't even get us a new set of signs for Lambton Park, let alone new amenities. And I believe as a committee, this is a dangerous road to start getting down for future developments, because at next we'll be going to, I don't know, Richmond Park's fairly close by as well, if you want to go there. So put that one side. If we could have floor 4 up, please. Floor 4. There you go, floor fault. One thing that concerns me about this, one of the reasons, and the objectors referred to this, that it was turned down on the fact of community space. Now, if I was a cynic and looking at this, 2 of the flats get very, very generous roof terraces. Was that just robbed out of the one property, because there was 9 in the original one that was refused? So we just threw in an extra large roof terraces for 2 lucky tenants. So we buy out the amenity space. I mean, I don't know if that is the case, but I might suggest that that looks like what it actually was. So I'm not convinced there's a genuine effort to make this amenity space proper amenity spaces. These are fairly small and they're not overly generous in size, even though they do meet the minimum requirement. And then to suggest that you've got quite a small flat and your actual amenity space is 500 meters up a busy road in Lambton Park. So come back to that, but I'm quite frankly, members, I'm not sold on that one. The next one I'm not sold on is, if my maths is correct, this starts off with 26 people living in these 8 flats. Well, we all know what happens. You start with 26 and eventually people, funnily enough, have families, and that 26 becomes 50 before you can shake a stick at it. And I'm not convinced that the refuge and the disposal and the waste amenities would cope with that uplift into it. We all know the problems that when you take a commercial property and develop it into a residential property, there's already a strain on what the building's capable of dealing with in case of waste disposal and everything else. This is magnifying it. So I've got 2 real concerns about this. It's the waste disposal starting at 26. It's probably going to go up to, I'll not say as many as 50, but probably 40 as people move in and families come, etc. And I am critically worried about this amenity space and the precedents we could be setting that's saying we'll just buy it out with a park up the road.
Councillor Luki.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Stroud. That's thank you for that backing on the amenity space, because this is not, I've seen applications elsewhere, in this, off Sign Lane Spur Road, where they say, oh, there's you can mitigate it with Sign Park. There's a park down the road at Sign Park. It's not the same as stepping out onto your own balcony or your own amenity space, or even a communal amenity space. You go downstairs and enjoy a garden or space to recreate. There is that. There's very much that, but there's also it's also the standard of the building too. I think we're not taking that into account. And that will impact on neighbouring properties. In fact, some, dare I say, I think some of these people the people that were here may have been sold a pig in the poke with that. That used to be, I don't know if it's still owned by the British Airways Pension Fund. Some people should declare an interest, but what I would say, no, I'm not saying you should or anybody should particularly, but there is that has been converted, and we see this with a lot of conversions elsewhere. Not so much in Hounslow, but I don't think we should be allowing substandard conversions where we get the planes going over, where buildings shake similarly, and there's nothing to do with the development noise, or whilst it's being built. There's nothing to do with that, but it's once they're there and the impacts and the noise from within. So the gentleman quite rightly cited policy CC2 on the impact of on neighbouring properties, and also the scale and density, and which coincides with the lack of amenity space. So if I don't know, Councillor Stroud-Turp has not moved anything, and if he does or if he doesn't, then I might. But if there's any more debate to be had on this, I will look to move something.
Okay. By the way, I got nothing to do with the BA's pension fund. Okay, I'm not part of that.
I was looking at you, but I know there are other people that that do have a relationship.
Thank you. Any more debating? Okay. Anybody proposing anything? Go on. Tony?
I don't know, are you looking to collaborate, Councillor Stroud Turp? If you want to move refusal on the points raised, or otherwise I will and look for a seconder.
Move refusal.
I'll second that, Chair.
Okay, so it's been proposed and seconded refusal. Do we need the reasons for the refusal, please? Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. So what I've written down, what I've heard is amenity space has been quite clearly put to us, insufficient amenity space. So it's the communal aspect of the amenity space. As a bit of background to the whole amenity space issue, it's been explained tonight. Amenity space has been an issue for us for a long time. Sorry, not trying to make a persuasive case here. I'm just explaining the history behind that calculation that comes to you. Essentially, we have a fair amount of overbuilds. We have quite intensification in town centres. We're obliged to build far more homes than our local plan planned for. So the fallback position was that we aren't getting the amenity space as part of the proposals to hit this, to hit our amenity space standards in the 2015 local plan. Ergo, we came up with this sum about 5 years ago that we've been consistently applying to all developments that have a shortfall in amenity space where we don't believe that shortfall in amenity space balances sufficiently to warrant refusal for the application. So that's the history behind that calculation. But I am hearing not just lack of amenity space for this, I'm hearing standard of accommodation throughout the property and over the development. So I think what we're hearing is that you're kind of hooking the two reasons into one, is that there's too much here, therefore the knock-on effect is poor standards of accommodation, which is you've got our advice. We don't believe that's the strongest reason for refusal. The London Plan 2021 doesn't have strong amenity space standards. The local plan does. The local plan is falling away as we move into a new local plan. We don't believe that's a sustainable reason for refusal, but it is a reason for refusal. So that is that's a material consideration for yourselves to consider. We heard waste somewhat. Sorry, Councillor. Not sure if it was a fully formed reason for waste. It does meet our standards, and then you said they'll cram more people in, but we don't have evidence to suggest that will happen. So
No, sorry, I didn't suggest cram more people in. What I suggested is at the size of the properties that they're currently 2 or 3 people, 4 people in some cases, but that doesn't allow for the fact that every councillor here is dealing with 4 or 5, a family of 4 or 5 living in 1-bedroom flats. They didn't move into a 1-bedroom flat with a family of 4 or 5. We know it happens, and so anyone involved with dealing with housing issues will know that within a year or two, it won't be 26 people living in there. People will have children, and you'll end up with at least 40 people living there, and it's already just on the limit for what's sustainable in terms of waste, etc. It won't be sustainable once that population of those apartments move to what they realistically will become.
So I think all I say to that is that it is exceptionally dangerous for you to presume that something would happen that hasn't been proposed in front of you. So we would be asked that there is waste is a planning ground. It's a material planning consideration. If you believe that there's insufficient waste for what is being presented to you tonight, then again, that's grounds for refusal, but we would advise against the presumption that you've put forward there. There was another one, there's a more general one about scale and density. And I think, Councillor, you're possibly getting to the issues with the properties below. I think most people know that, but we're not dealing with the properties below. They got prior approval. They didn't get planning permission. It wasn't within this committee's control. That's happened. But notwithstanding that, that may well contribute to that first reason that I put in terms of the overall standard of accommodation that's wrapped into SC5. So that could go hand in hand with that. Should members wish to do that. So I'll conclude there. Sorry, Councillor.
Did you pick, and Councillor, correct me if I've misinterpreted you, but I think he brought up the issue of the disparity of amenity space between properties.
So yeah, so the point he's making, I think, is that, sorry, Councillor, I don't want to put words, but you've said it quite clearly anyway. There are some flats here that have got a small balcony. There's some flats that have got a big balcony. So yeah, some flats, but that we can still wrap that into the policy SC5, which is standard of accommodation. And yes, if you want to direct to specific flats, by all means do so. But the reason for refusal could still just be a generic substandard units of accommodation, and then that would follow that the appeal, should the one be forthcoming, would argue those particular grounds.
So with the refusal proposal, can we just make sure the reasons again, please?
we've raised them. Councillor Stroud-Turp and I have raised them. Officers have supplemented that, and they said earlier on that they will support and decipher what we have to say. They're the ones with the MRTPIs. It's about amenity space. It is about it does include impact on neighbouring properties, whether they were approved or not. The ones downstairs, are not approved with prior development or whatever. Whatever the policy was when it was brought in. I would include about flooding as well, because that car park gets filled up with water so quickly when it rains. But there's nothing but an impact on neighbouring properties, whether they've been approved prior or not. Downstairs, below these floors, or next door to these floors, it's neighbouring properties, not just ones at 6 Lambton Road. So just include that. There is, I think we're looking at we might. I hope we're not being fed red herrings, but there's a lot that we've covered here between Councillor Bowring, Councillor Stroud-Turp, myself, and residents. The other people making comment that warrants these reasons for refusal, Chair. Let's move to the vote on these matters.
Hang
All
on a
right,
minute.
okay. All right.
Give it to me. So, are these reasons?
So Councillor Lukey has put policy CC22 now as well. So policy SC5 standard accommodation, policy CT2 impact and neighbour amenities. So those are now separate grounds, and then waste would be a third ground. So you're now looking at 3 grounds for refusal.
Sorry, I know what you did, but just for clarity, what slightly concerns me more of this is that, yes, this is not the only vote we see where we do know the accommodation it meets the requirement, but as people get put into smaller and smaller properties to meet the requirement, and I know we've got a housing crisis, and as you know, I'm normally keen that we do as much as we can to solve it, but the provision of private and public amenity spaces in these apartments is critical to people. You can't expect people to live in small properties where they've got a living and kitchen space as one. They're probably going to have children. They absolutely live on top of each other, and they've got nowhere to go apart from a small balcony or leg it 500 metres up the road in the winter to a park. It's not providing our residents with what they deserve. It might be what the law allows them to have, but we should be better than that. And hence the reason for the objection.
Okay, you want to add, Simon? You want to add to that?
I do really. I mean, I think Mr. East already pointed out the danger, Councillor Stroud-Turp, is you're always moving into the area of speculation around this area, and once you do, you're going down a slippery slope that planning won't let you go down, unfortunately. So I don't think that is going to be something that works. It is a limitation of planning that we can't actually crystal ball predict how many people are actually going to live there. We can make valid assumptions. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, please.
Thank you. I'll just try to help clarify the refusal reasons. I'm grateful for the comments that have been made already, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but there's the lack of amenity space. That's a combination of the communal amenity space provision on site, lack of on site, but also the discrepancy between the sizes of private amenity spaces for different units. But we can contain that all within an amenity space refusal reason. And then there's another one that's related to density and the functionality of the design, really, and that is linked to the point around the communal amenity space, because that is an indicator, because there's a lack of it on site, that it's too dense a development. That's having an impact then on the services, the refuse, the amenity space. So it's probably those two that would help crystallise, perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, okay, these reasons, are you happy with that as the planning reasons?
Those are planning grounds for refusing an application. Yeah.
From that. Okay, it's been proposed and seconded for refusal. So I'll take a vote for refusal first, please. Members? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yep. Okay. Against? Abstentions? So how many votes?
One, two. We're going to count heads and names at this
Can we
stage,
count again,
Councillor.
please? Sorry.
No, so I'll just count heads.
Yeah,
just
yeah,
so I
go
know
on,
what
go on,
everybody
go on, go on.
voted.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just-
Yeah, that's right. Two abstentions.
We have 10 votes against, 2 abstentions, no votes in favour.
Okay, so it has been refused. Application has been refused. Thank you. Thank you for your contribution, members. Right. Next item is item 5, outside 40 Chiswick High Road. And who's taking this one? I think Jackie. Down to you. Sorry, this application was called in by Councillor John Todd, and he's not very well, so that's why he's not in. And then he suggested Councillor Widow will take his place, and she's not in either. So, so that's why he's going to Jackie. Yeah.
Hi, good evening. I'm Jackie, the planning officer of this application. So you can see that in the PowerPoint, this is the installation of a communication hub, which has the defibrillator and also the alert display. The photo on the screen, the first photo on the screen can show the site location and also the setting of the site. On the left-hand side, on the ground floor, it is a shop. And then on the upper floors are the residential units. And then on the right-hand side, it is a residential block. And the proposed communication hub will be in the middle. And this one can show that it would be 3.2 meters from the front garden of the residential block, and it would be 0.6 meter from the road. The communication hub would be 2.63 meter tall, 1.338 meter wide, 0.317 meter deep, and the average display would be 1.895 meter tall, 1.605 meter wide. These photos can show the existing and the proposed site. The left-hand side is the existing one, and the right-hand side is the proposed one. And then the other picture, it is from another angle to show the application, to show the proposed development. So after studying the report, our conclusion is that it would not affect the appearance and character of the area because there are some existing structures nearby. And then there would be no significant impacts on pedestrian movements or in transport terms. And there will be a condition to limit the illumination level and the frequency of changing the address. This is not the first effort and planning application from the applicant. In the last few months, the applicant has at least 2 applications on Chiswick High Road. These are the applications. We have refused both of them. The left-hand side one was refused in the planning committee last year, and the applicants has appealed for both of them, and we lost the appeal. The inspector has mentioned in the appeal reports that they do not believe that, the development would be visually intrusive and would not increase street cluster. And also, it would not be obstructive to the pavement. And at the same time, the setting, because of the setting of the Chiswick High Road is relatively similar to each other. And also the appeal decisions are very recent. So we recommend approval with conditions for this application. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jackie. Questions for the officer? Councillor Boring?
So just to clarify, I've understood what you just said. There's been 2 other applications that this council, one way or another, has refused, and the inspector has approved it. And the 2 applications the inspector approved are similar or near identical to this one.
The setting of Chiswick High Road is relatively similar because also you can see that it is a mix of commercial and residential all along Chiswick High Road. So I would say when we decide, there is a considerable way to when referencing the appeal decisions.
Is that a yes?
Yeah, I would say yes.
If it helps you, Councillor Baring, treat these as relevant planning considerations. They're not material to the extent that we're dealing with exactly the same site in the same location with all the same factors. But as Jackie's just explained, they're broadly similar, so they're relevant planning considerations that you ought to take into account.
Thank you. Yeah, Councillor Stoughton.
Yeah, can you just tell us what is a communication hub? I mean, it strikes me that what we've got here is an application for an advertising sign, which they then bolted on a few things to make it a communication hub. And a defibrillator, really?
Yes, according to the proposal, that would be on one side, it would be the error display, and then on the other side, it is the telephone and also the defibrillator.
Sorry, my jaw just dropped there. My jaw dropped there because a public telephone. Really?
Yes, it is.
There's exactly the same thing that are being ripped out of the high street.
I would say that it is a communication hub with advert display. It is not only a communication hub.
No, I'm sorry. Everybody, they're taking telephone boxes out. Nobody uses them. I mean,
Except
literally,
junkies and drug dealers. Yeah.
Nobody uses telephone boxes. I mean, this is an advertising board that they've called a communication hub. It's disingenuous. It's not a communication hub. It's an advertising board.
Right. Councillor Luki?
This is not the same. Chiswick, you should know anyway. You're a Chiswick boy. Chiswick High Road is not all the same. And this is in a different location. This is outside Ravensmead Way. It's opposite locally listed buildings, prebend mansions, and though it's not in a conservation area, this probably should be a conservation area. I agree with. Why am I agreeing with Councillor Turp all the time tonight? But this is an advertising board. Why not just come clean and say it's an advertising board? You've got this is a motherhood and apple pie type offer of a defibrillator. You've got the bus garage down the road where there's a lot more activity and a lot more people fall foul on the bus. Why not have a defibrillator there, for example? This is clutter. This is clutter in an area, in a location which I know very well, where just looking to put an advertising sign. Where then down the road there's 2 bus stops with advertising signs, and another one a little bit further back on towards Chiswick Lane with a couple of advertising signs. So either come clean and say it's an advertising sign, because I do. The other thing I know about these places and these locations and these structures, it's a great place to leave your black bags there and other fly tip, and that's never really been considered. But if you look at my ward, if you look at the London Road between Thornbury Road and Spring Grove Road, it's where people put fly tip, and it's where drug deals are done in front of these locations, and there's even shelter there that you can put your head under. And I don't think they're going to be placing plates on their chest to revive them, unless it's a really bad trip, maybe. So I don't know what we do with this. It doesn't cost as much to appeal these, does it? Really? If they're appealed, I think it's a nonsense. Come clean. If you want an advertising sign, do it. We've got a contract with the council's got contract with JC Deco anyway. Why are you smiling at your boss there, Matthew? What I'm saying, but this is yeah. I'll vote for refusal on this anyway.
That's later on, okay? We are questioning at the moment, okay? Questioning the officer. So we'll do that later on, Tony. Mr. Gyani?
Thank you, Chair. It looks like to me it's, as the other councillor said, it's advertising board. So are we going to get, as a council, going to get any money regularly on that, or it's just one-off and we don't get anything, you know?
All right, go on. Jackie, are you going to answer anything? Or?
Sorry, I'm smiling because you know what I'm going to say now. Money earned is not material planning consideration. It's put forward to you as a full planning application, not an advert application. So we're considering it as a full planning application. You have not given planning grounds for refusing the application up to this point. I could list the planning reasons. I think people know what they are, but you haven't articulated them to this point. But obviously we're still in questions, so that's.
We're just still in questions, yeah. The chair advised me that I'm still in questions.
The officers?
One more. Do the owners of these sites pay business rate on these mono or mini lifts on our pavements?
I'll get that information for you, Councillor. I know who does know. So yeah, I'll let you know through a different manner. Yeah.
Okay, Councillor Aston.
Thank you very much, Chair. Just a quick question. Especially during the winter months when the daylight hours are much shorter, what's the impact in terms of noise and light on the nearby residents that live there?
One of the refusal reason for the application in the last planning committee is the noise problem, and then they have submitted a noise assessment in the appeal, and the inspector is satisfied with the noise assessment, and they believe that noise should not be a refusal reason for the appeal. And the application is similar. I mean, the development is very similar to the previous application.
Okay, does that also apply to light? Because they can get quite bright at night.
We have the condition for illumination level during daytime and also during nighttime.
Okay, any more questions? No? Okay, can you give a briefing, please? Anything you want to add on? No? Okay, it's open for debate. Councillor Lal?
Well, I'll just pitch in that 3 strikes and you're out, basically. So I remember discussing the previous applications and then the grounds for us refusing that time round. And I don't particularly want to go through this rigmarole again. We clearly know what's going on, right? But I don't think there's anything to be gained by refusing it, because I think it's going to get overturned again. Yeah. So I'd just be mindful to say, look, we tried our best on the previous applications. This is very much similar, and we should probably approve it.
Okay.
I was just going to say something similar. Of course, it's an advertising board. It is. I'm not particularly enamored by it, but there aren't, in my opinion, there are no planning grounds for refusing it. The inspectors knocked us back twice. Officers have done an analysis. They think it meets the threshold. And I think we're stretching it a bit. So I agree.
Are you proposing something?
Yeah, I propose to approve.
Any seconder? Okay, it's been proposed and seconded for approval. So I'll take a vote for the approval, please, first. Yeah. Can you take a note? Yeah, and Council vote as well. Okay. Yeah, against? Abstentions? So how many? How many for?
We have 8 to agree, 1 to refuse, and 3 abstentions.
Okay, thank you. The application has been approved. Now, next item is addendum report. I think we all have addendum report in front of us. I hope you had a look at it. Right, and item 7 is any other business. I have not been informed of any other business. The date for the next meeting is 9th of July. With that, I close the meeting. Thank you for your help and welcome the new members. I forgot to say that. There are 3 new members on the committee, Councillor Kiani, Councillor Aksa Ahmed, and Councillor Emma Sidhu. Welcome. And no, she's been before, huh? Yeah. Okay, thank you. With that, I close the meeting. Thank you for your help.